Good evening, everyone. We have got a guest tonight. He is Dylan Kerr, that many of you remember played for Blackpool, also played for Leeds United and other clubs. We're going to quickly go through his history of his club. So I'll just put it up on screen.
Yeah, for the Blackpool fans amongst you, Dylan was with us in January to March 1992.
Dylan was born in 1967. He's born in Malta. He started his career at Sheffield Wednesday in 1984, plays for Leeds United, had a loan spell with Blackpool in 1991 and went on to manage, and we'll touch on all that later. So you're born in Malta. Did you live there, grow up there, or did you come to England at an early age?
No, I was born there. My father was in the Royal Navy, the Royal Merchant Navy. My mum went over reluctantly to marry him. She's always told me the worst mistake she's ever done, but I've always said to her it's the best mistake you've ever done because you produced me. So we lived there for 18 months. My dad obviously left the Navy, and came home to Mexborough, which is in South Yorkshire, in between Doncaster, Barnsley and Rotherham and Sheffield. And I lived there right up until when I left to join Reading in 1993. And yeah, my dad was a pitman. He worked down the mines, so he'd gone from the Merchant Navy down to being a miner. And you know, that's like I say, 18 months. But my godparents are still there, so I do speak occasionally to my godparents still.
So you're a Donny lad. We're big fans of Doncaster here, and of course Blackpool have got Jerry Yates from Doncaster at the moment, who's a big favourite. So.
Yes, we like Doncaster. We're not so keen on Rotherham, just a few miles down the road. We've been to both of those venues, both of those grounds the last couple of years. Doncaster really friendly, and Rotherham's not quite the same. I don't know why.
Both good stadiums. You know, it's very.
Yeah.
I mean, the New York Stadium is brilliant.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful.
Perspective from football, and so is the Keepmoat, you know. So, you know, but you know the renovations that they did, they built brand new, you know, unlike the renovated, you know, the Bloomfield Road, which I actually prefer them to be stadiums to be kept where they are and renovated, you know, move off site.
Yeah, rather than on a sort of an off. Yeah, but when you go to Rotherham, you know, the ground is right by the sort of the old ground. It's still there, isn't it? You go past it, it's like a ghost of a ground. It's very odd, isn't it? Very odd.
I find it very sad when grounds just get demolished, and that's just like history going, isn't it? That's really sad.
It is.
Yeah.
You know, they say it's better, but for me, it's not.
No. So, just touching on your playing career, you started in 84 to 88 playing for Sheffield Wednesday. So how did that come about? Were you YTS at Sheffield Wednesday, or were you picked up?
Did you get this off Wikipedia? Because I was there from 84 to 86.
Oh, right.
So I know. So yeah, I actually, you know, it was actually Last Chance Saloon really, because I was 16 and you know I'd not really done the blue forms as they were called then. When you were associated to a football club, I was always told I would never be a footballer, and you know I'd never given up. But at 16, you know, when I'm just leaving school, thinking you know the chance had gone, and my dad, who was just a local pub footballer, he played for a team called Swinton Athletic and Swinton Working Men's Club on a Sunday morning, and he actually managed this team, Swinton Athletic, and he asked me to play in this game, and I said no, I'm not. And he basically said, look, you've got to play. Whether he knew that there were a scout there from Sheffield Wednesday, I don't know, but I had a good game, and the gentleman that was there was an old Sheffield scout with very, very good ties with Jack Charlton, and he said, look, give me a ring on Monday and I'll speak to Jack and see if we can get you down at Sheffield Wednesday for pre-season training. Monday I phoned him and it got me a trial. You know, I'd got a trial at Sheffield Wednesday. But back in the day, Jack resigned and took over the Republic of Ireland national team. And in came out Wilkinson. And it all went from there. You know, I went to Sheffield Wednesday for 6 weeks on pre-season trial. And they offered me the first YTS youth training scheme apprentice professional contract, which was £25 a week, paid by the government. But it also meant I could only be an apprentice professional for 1 year, not for 2. So I'd only got that year to try and get myself a contract.
I take it must have been successful, and you must have had a successful year.
Well, I'll be honest. I could run. My forte at school was cross country, 1500 meters, 800 meters. I could run, and obviously, everybody knows how Howard Wilkinson back in the day used to work. It was a very strict routine, but most of it, especially in pre-season, was running. I mean, we would run for 90 minutes up in the hills, in the valleys, around reservoirs, and we would do that for 6 weeks. And obviously, I would lead and I would win everything at a canter, to the utmost hatefulness of the other senior pros. But I was on trial. I was trying to impress.
Sure.
So at the end of the 6 weeks, like I said, they wouldn't give me an apprentice contract because they were full. Had it not been for the Conservative government, I think it was the Conservatives at the time, doing this youth training scheme, I wouldn't have got that contract. So, because they weren't paying it was the government. And I spent a year as an apprentice. I never made a league debut. I was on the fringes of the squad, in the 16 of the squads, but never got on the bench, never made an appearance. But 3 months before my contract was up for renewal, whether I'd turn pro or not, they said to me that I would never play midfield. I weren't good enough to be a midfielder. So they weren't going to offer me a contract on that premise. But they fancied me as being a left back because, one, I could run, but two, I could cross a ball and I could pass a ball. I got a good left foot. So for 6 weeks, they said to me, look, prove us wrong. Proves that we think you can do it. And for 6 weeks, I worked really, really hard with the likes of Mel Stirl and Nigel Worthington, your former boss.
We don't mention that name.
Okay.
No, it's all right. I'm only joking.
Lennigan was a good guy. And, Mike Lyons, the centre-back, Mark Smith, the left centre-back. And I worked very, very hard to become a left-back. And when I knocked on the door and asked the gaffer, what's happening, they said, 100%, without doubt, you've worked so hard, your attitude's right, blah, 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 and all that lot. And I signed my first professional contract for Sheffield Wednesday, £60 a week with £12.50 travel expenses. So,
wow.
So my lifelong ambition since I was 5 years of age, when I first got my first football strip and first watched my dad play in a final and became mascot and held the trophy, that's when I got the bug. And again, I had a lot of doubters. I had a lot of people say I'd never make it. And when I signed that professional contract, I proved a hell of a lot of people wrong. And I'm still doing it now, and I'm 54.
Oh, well done you. It just shows you what hard work and determination can get you, doesn't it? That's fantastic.
To all those children watching this at the moment who want to become professional footballers, that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's hard work and dedication. What was Howard Wilkinson like, actually, Dylan?
He was very, very good. He's my mentor, along with Billy Ayre. Between the two of them, and I only knew Billy for such a short time. But we had such a good connection. But Howard, Howard's never been the most popular because of the Route 1 football that he was labelled with. But what he did, he was a good man manager. You were scared to death of him. You had to perform, you had to play. You didn't have to turn up for training and think you were done. You had to do the extra. You had to go through a lot of hard work, a lot of pain, a lot of anguish. And this is me as an 17-year-old trying to break the ranks into the football. And unfortunately, from the experience I had of turning pro at 17, becoming this professional footballer without playing a professional league game, I kind of blew it. Excuse the French, I fucked it up, and I fucked it up myself.
Oh,
excuse the French, guys.
That's all right.
Yeah,
It's all right. It's,
you learn.
it's okay.
You learn. I mean, again,
Jane drops the odd one in now and again, don't you?
I do, yeah. So what happened then at Sheffield Wednesday?
I was 17. I'd signed my first professional football contract. I got the club suit. I got a player's pass. I became, with obviously, the superstars of this day and age. Back in the day, there was, players probably a lot of people not know or not remember, especially the younger ones. But there's like Lee Chapman, Mike Lyons, Gary Shelton, Gary Megson, Brian Marwood, Andy Blair, Mel Sterling. They're all these big players, and they used to go out on a Monday night to a club called Josephine's, and on a Saturday night we'd be in that same club on Josephine's. And I remember, I'm 17 years old. I'm still a kid, and I'm clubbing it. I'm doing what a 17-year-old can only imagine. Being labeling myself as a footballer, but without even kicking a ball in the professional leagues. And then I met the Human League and Heaven 17 and ABC, and I'm a massive 80s fan. I'm a huge fan of music, especially the Human League and Heaven 17, Depeche Mode, Japan, Soft, all these 80s. And to actually be in their company, I became very, very close with Heaven 17 and the Human League. And I used to go to parties. I used to be picked up in limousines and driven to nightclubs, and I would step outside with Phil Oakey and Suzanne Sully and Martin Ware, and we'd be, and it would be, you're 17 years old, in all these famous pop icons, and I didn't think my football was bad, but obviously word gets round, and Sheffield may be a big town, but a big city.
The edge of a clubbing.
People know where you are and who you are. And my social life was a lot more important to them than my football life. And they decided that Wayne Jacobs was the next player coming up from apprenticeship, and rather they gave him a year. And they decided to release me. So it all went. It was the biggest mistake I've ever made, and I've always got this motto: no regrets. And I've never had a regret in my life since then, because I know the for 6 months I didn't know what to do. So so Jane and I became this celebrity. Dating all these gorgeous women, from at 20.
Sounds fantastic, Dylan.
I was going to say, I bet you must have made some fantastic memories there. For all you say you regret it, I mean,
listen,
wow.
I don't. I'll never regret what I did. Believe me, but I mean, I did things for a 17-year-old you would never imagine. And it will. When I've just started chapter 12 in my book, which I've just left Sheffield Wednesday. So there's a lot of things in that obviously can't say, but I have said. But it's it's going to be interesting whether people like it or not. But it's the truth. It's the truth.
Yeah.
When I'm going to one of the biggest nightclubs in Sheffield with the top band in England at the time, which was the Human League. I've got a singer on my right arm. I've got the dark-haired singer on my left arm, walking into a bar or into a club or into a function, and we became very, very good friends. And I would spend, I'd be invited to parties, to bonfires, to the house for dinner. You couldn't write it in 1980.
Absolutely. In the words of Heaven 17, you were succumbed by temptation.
Definitely were.
But you weren't working as a checkout, working as a right. So moving on from there, obviously things went wrong there, and we end up the next place you seem to turn up at is a
where you are now in South Africa.
In South Africa, Arcadia Shepherds. How did that come about?
Well, I wrote. Remember back in the day, nobody knew what computers were. Well, they did, but they didn't use them. It was a typewriter or a pen. So when I left Sheffield Wednesday, I actually cried for about a month. But in between all them tears, I wrote 91 letters to every league club in League 1, 2, 3 and 4, as they were back then. And I got 7 replies. 6 of them, didn't work out. The likes of Oldham Athletic, Donny Rovers, Rotherham United.
Yeah.
Birmingham City. Birmingham City chose Julian Dix over me.
Oh,
Which,
wow.
it's not a bad thing to, after the career Julian had, but it was Ron Saunders, it was a heads or tails who they were going to take. And obviously Julian was from down that area, so they chose him. And then I was at Doncaster Rovers with Billy Bremner just before he left to go to Leeds United. And I was on a part-time contract, but I was full-time professional. And unfortunately, Billy left to join Leeds, and then the new coach decided that all the part-time players, they can leave. And we left. We got told we were no longer, required for training, and we left. So that was last options for me. I ended up playing for Matlock Town, and I enjoyed it at Matlock Town. It's quite, no pressure. And then I got a phone call from Michael Hennigan, who's my old youth coach at Sheffield Wednesday, and his friend, who he was best man to in the 60s when he was playing in South Africa, wanted a left-sided player, and he asked me straight away, would you like to go? And I asked for about a week to decide, and he said, no, you've got 2 days because I want to fly you out on the 3rd. So there's me, 18 years old, no job, playing for Matlock Town in the Northern Premier League or whatever it's called. And I get a phone call. Obviously, my mum and dad were dead against it. I didn't have anything. I didn't have a clue about South Africa apart from the fact that it was apartheid and what you heard on the news. And I phoned Stan Laporte up, the manager, and he convinced me to go out and said, "Listen, you can always come back again. That's the thing. No regrets." And I decided to go. And the day before I was leaving, there was an incident on news at 10. And I can remember Sandy Gall came on, and the first bong was about politics. The second bong was about an explosion in Belfast. And the third bong was a guy getting stabbed 87 times on a football field in South Africa.
Oh
God.
My gosh, no
Mum
way.
and Dad were adamant.
Yeah, you're not going.
He survived, actually. He survived because he was that fat. He was that big. Yeah, Jane, it was that big, he survived. And I mean, the fans ran onto the pitch and stabbed him because he wanted to league. Anyway, I flew over to South Africa the next day. My mum gave me a wedding ring, and as I left the airport, which I still got, and I went to South Africa, and I spent 3 wonderful years in South Africa.
So that was from what year is that? Because obviously the Wikipedia is wrong. They're not 88 to 89, then
86 to 89.
86 to 89.
86. I went January the 7th. I went in 1986.
What was the level of football like then in South Africa at that time? We're pretty good.
Brilliant. It was brilliant because there was a lot of white teams, there was a lot of black teams. There was 18 teams in the league. The big teams were the likes of Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates, Amazulu, Morocco Swallows were the big teams with the big fans.
Right.
The games were sold out. There were always 60, 70, 80, 90,000 at games. I played for a white team that had an Indian goalkeeper, and they had 2 black players. We were refused permission to play in our home stadium in the centre of Pretoria because we had 2 black players and an Indian player. So we had to play in the township called Attridgeville, which, like I said, my book is going to be absolutely, I'm not plugging this, but I'll tell you what, the stories.
Plug it all you like, absolutely.
The stories I can tell you about, my first day in training, when I get to training, they put me in one of them old baths in the dressing room, the old deep baths. Where everybody jumped in. And I'd been told to take my clothes off and stand in my football shoes, in my football boots, and wait. And then next minute, this guy comes in with 3 chickens by the neck, and he pulls out this knife, slices the heads off, throws the chickens in the bath, and I'm stood there getting covered head to toe in
Oh,
blood and couldn't move.
Oh.
And the reason was this Muti man, or the Juju man, or the witch man, or whatever you call it. They're known as Muti men here. They needed that blood to hit my boots, you know, because it was
good luck.
apparently
Good luck.
good luck, you know. So
Wow.
I get out the bath. I'm absolutely covered in it, you know, and
Yeah.
it's literally you know, it's and the blood did go on my boots. And the semi-final we played in there's a tournament called Top 8, so the top 8 teams play the season opener. And in the semi-final game, we were losing 2-0. We won 3-2, and I scored the second goal and the winning goal.
Wow. They did bring you luck.
It did bring me luck. But on the opposite of that, again, they had a Muti man at half time that was covered in the African regalia, and you know, it looked like one of these old war movies with, you know, the jungle people, and they got this warlord that danced or whatever, and he was spraying water everywhere, and he was throwing dust everywhere, and he's getting it. I mean, there's 30,000 people there. The crowd were going absolutely mental. They loved it, and that's when they're winning at 2-0. At 3-2, you just could see this guy running out the stadium because they wanted to lynch him. They'd have killed it if they'd have caught him. They'd have killed him. You know?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Jane. Honestly, it's and remember, I'm still 18. I've only been in the country a couple of weeks, and I've got these two things that's happened to me, and then I've seen this Muti man, you know, run basically for his life because they reckon he was a bad omen for them. So, but we won that. We got to the final, and because there were 2 white teams that played in the final, there weren't really many supporters that would watch. And it was 2 legs. One's in Durban, one and the second leg in Joburg. We won the first one 3-1. I actually got carried out by about 1,000 plus fans. They were trying to carry me out of the stadium to go to a local shebeen for a beer because I was so good. I was so good that day.
Wow, fantastic.
Security dragged me back, and we went back to Joburg. We drew the second leg 1-1, so we won it 4-2. And that was my first championship medal that I'd won, and I'd only been there literally 3 weeks.
Blimey.
So
that
what
was a great start, wasn't it?
What was South Africa like? I mean, were you going out, or what was it like for a young lad living in South Africa at that time, sort of socially?
It was brilliant. I mean, Pretoria is probably the size of Manchester, right? And there was 1 bar in the town and 1 nightclub in the town. There was 2 nightclubs outside, which was in the middle of a field. It was in the middle of nowhere. It used to cost the equivalent of £1 to get in. You could have a 3-course meal as you got in the nightclub, and you could go any time you want. It was like a buffet meal, and you were literally paying like 20p for a pint. You know, which, you know, that's 1986. And there were only 1 pub there were 2 pubs in town. One was an English pub called the Rose and Crown, and the other one was called Rumours. So there wasn't really much in the way of nightlife. But in the day, you know, black people had their own bus, white people had their own bus. You know, black people had to be home by a certain time. They couldn't be allowed out after a curfew. There was a lot, you know, that was bad, you know, but you know, that's something that, you know, I wasn't privy to before I went, and I saw a lot of, you know, good things, and I saw a lot of bad things. But one of the good things is the country was amazing. I mean, it was clean. The businesses were all thriving. Shops were all thriving. The health system was fantastic. The services were absolutely, everything was brilliant, you know, and black people had jobs a lot. There was no unemployment like there is now. I mean, the unemployment here is ridiculous now.
Is it?
30 years later. But obviously, you know, that stigma that apartheid had, you know, it was wrong. But if you can imagine going to Manchester, to where they've refurbished all these, where the tram goes around all the city centre. All them buildings are all trashed. All them buildings are all dilapidated and ruined. So they've kind of they took over the town basically, and I wouldn't go down Pretoria
No.
at all, especially after 5 o'clock.
It's scarier now than is it than back then?
Back then it wasn't a problem back then, but now everywhere's, the nightlife in Pretoria and Joburg is phenomenal. It's different, like I said, from back in my day.
Right.
So Jane, no, the nightlife, there was only like I said, three places we'd actually venture in Pretoria, and maybe a couple of places in Joburg. Durban was a bit better. That was a bit more because it was a tourist place, because it was on the beach. They had a couple of other places. Cape Town. If you ever get the chance to go anywhere in the world, go to Cape Town. It's beautiful.
I'd like to go to South Africa, actually. It always sounds beautiful, but it sounds a little bit scary all at the same time.
No, it depends where you go. Depends where you go. It depends where you go. Like I say, I walk a lot, and there's never any hassle with me. But it is. I wouldn't go down Pretoria or downtown Joburg. At night. You just wouldn't do it. You just wouldn't do it.
I suppose it's like anywhere. There's places in Blackpool we wouldn't go at night, isn't there?
Yeah, probably.
It was like that in 1991 when I was there.
Although you did walk down Dixon Road, I told you not to that night. But anyway, so you were picked up. You then moved to Leeds. How did that come about?
That was Howard Wilkinson, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Well, when I came home, I used to come home at November till January. So I used to spend Christmas and New Year with my family, and I always used to want to keep training. So when Howard was at Sheffield Wednesday, I used to train back at Sheffield Wednesday, and I think he liked my character and the way that I used to, not be enamored by these big players, and thinking I was better being there, and it was about me. It was like, I just wanted to keep myself fit, and I would like that. And,
right.
And when he joined Leeds, I just agreed to sign for Kaiser Chiefs.
A great band.
Yeah, a great band now. Well, they named them after Lucas.
Yes, obviously they did name them after the team, Kaiser Chiefs.
So when I came back, I trained. I asked Howard if I could train, and he said yes. And I went. I got a lift with the likes of John Pearson, Ian Baird, Andy Williams to training, and I only went to keep fit, but I played a few reserve games, and I was due to fly back to South Africa, and I knocked on his door and I said, "Gaffer, how have I done?" He says, "Oh, you've been brilliant. You've been brilliant, but you've got a good reputation in South Africa. Everybody loves you. Everybody's got can't say enough about you. I think you should go back. Thanks very much." And I shook everybody's hand, said goodbye, got my boots and left. And then I played for a Frickley Athletic against Royalston in a Northern Premier League game. They gave me 50 quid to play. So that was my drinking money for the weekend. I was leaving on the Tuesday. Now there's a paper in Yorkshire. There was a paper in Yorkshire called the Greenham, and it came out at 6:30 every Saturday night. And Michael Hennigan read the headlines. Kerr scores 2 goals, sets 2 up. This youngster, blah 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 blah. And he phoned me on the Sunday morning, and he says, and in his lovely voice, "Hey, what the fucking hell are you doing, son?" And I went, "What do you mean?" He says, "You could have fucked up your chance at Leeds." And I went, "No." I said, "Well, I'm going now." And he says, "No, they've had a change of heart. Go see the gaffer on Monday. They want to offer you an 18-month contract." And my prayers had all come true, because while I was in South Africa, I'd never give up the ambition of coming back to England, and never in a million years would I thought it'd be Leeds United. But I went to see Howard, and he said, "Listen, you've done very, very well. Michael thinks you'll be you'll be. I'd be stupid to let you go." And he offered me 18 months, and I signed. And I played my first game, I think, in February. I came off the bench against Brighton.
So who were the team then? Who were the players in Leeds at that time?
Oh, there were Billy Bremner's old school. There was like Mervyn Day in goal, Gary Williams right back, Glyn Snodding left back, Noel Blake, Neil Aspin, a guy called Peter Haddock, who was very underrated and, what a good defender. You got John Sheridan, John Stiles, Ian Baird, John Pearson, Mickey Adams, Vince Hilaire.
Which league were they in then, Dylan?
I was League Two.
They're in League Two, yeah, in Division
Which
2.
is the Championship now, yeah. And Howard gradually, Mark Hazelwood as well, and Mark gradually, the gaffer gradually phased as many of them out there. And again, this is what I like about Howard. He knows his players. He identifies his players that wants to play his style and his way. Yeah. And then he brought in the likes of John Lukic, Mel Sterland. He brought myself, Mike Whitlow. He brought Tony DeRigo, Jim Beglin, Chris Fairclough, and Huggy Bear, Chris White. He got rid of, obviously David Batty was there, Gary Speed. Gary Speed was going to get released. And the youth team coach, Pete Gumby, told Howard, listen, you're making a mistake, give him a year. It'll prove you wrong. And the rest is history.
Certainly did.
Then he brought in Gordon Strachan, which was a master stroke. David Rocastle came, couldn't get in the team. David Rocastle was like me, couldn't get in the team because of Gordon Strachan. I couldn't get in the team because of Gary Speed and Tony DeRigo. Yeah. Right. And then he brought Cantona in. He brought Lee Chapman back in. Carl Schultz, John Pearson stayed, and Gary McAllister came in. John Hendrick came in. And he built that team to get them out the championship. Once they're out the championship, he got rid of all the ex Billy Bremner players, and he brought in his own people. And obviously, he's the last Englishman to win the old championship. Now the Premier League.
Really? Is he really? God, that's a fun fact, isn't it?
Yeah, that is a fun fact. But you can understand why, because you're just naming those players. there were some fantastic players there. Who was probably, you would say, was the top player there at that time?
Strachan. Strachan, without
Strachan,
doubt.
yeah.
Strachan came and his energy and everything about him, and everybody was saying he was too old, but he's always maintained. Batty was brilliant. Vinnie Jones came. I forgot about Vinnie.
Yeah.
Vinnie was very underestimated because he was a very good player. But obviously his Wimbledon days labelled him. But Gordon Strachan pinned him up against the wall at half time in one game because Vinnie were trying to kick everybody, and he slapped Vinnie, and he said, "Vinnie, idiot, you're a good player. You don't need to kick people, just play." But at the end of that season, Howard got rid of him and brought in Gary McAllister. He sold him to Sheffield United. Eric Cantona, everybody loves Eric. He wasn't Howard's cup of tea. I don't think Eric was playing in the way that Howard liked to play. He didn't like running, and even though he was a good player, they didn't really fit, both of them. And
no.
Who'd have thought? In hindsight, £1 million. Yeah, that was a good deal for Eric. Because maybe the issues that Howard had, and the other teams have had in France that Eric had played for, maybe £1 million would seem a good deal. Unbeknown, Eric became even bigger than George. Well, not as big as George Best, but nearly as big as George Best when he signed for Man United. But it was great because I used to train with Eric every morning. We used to do one-on-one sessions, which was really good. And unfortunately, I just couldn't get in the team because Tony DeRigo, England international, Gary Speed, was doing very, very well. That left side was very difficult. And then he brought Jim Beglin in. When I'd had an hernia injury, he brought Jim Beglin in. And even though Jim were probably past his best with his knees, Jim would play games more than I would. So when the opportunity to go on loan to Blackpool, I jumped at the chance because not just I didn't know Billy, I didn't know anybody at Blackpool. I knew big Bams, obviously, but and Mike Davies, the stalwart.
Yeah.
And I
Super
said,
Michael Davies.
I had to go. And Billy phoned me and he invited me down. And I love Blackpool as it is anyway. I don't remember. There were a band that used to go to
Something about
Brannigan.
Donny Lads, isn't it? Obviously in Blackpool, Doncaster lads.
There was a band called Housequake. I don't know if you've ever saw them.
Who are they called? Sorry,
Housequake. They always used to go to Brannigan's. They were brilliant, and I used to go see them all over wherever they toured. They were that good. They were funny, but they were good musicians as well for a working man's pub. But yeah, and then Billy phoned me, and I ended up coming to Blackpool on loan.
Well, we're just saying because Jerry Yates came to Blackpool, and on his Blackpool interview, they asked him why he come, and he just went Pepsi Biggin. It's one of his main reasons why he come to Blackpool. So it's obviously a Donny thing. You obviously like Blackpool, and they like the rides or something. But it's a great place, Blackpool. So you touched on Billy Ayre before, and he's a legend, obviously. In every Blackpool fan of that time, of that era. Jane, would have a lot of affection for Billy Ayre, and we all did. And what was he like?
Billy was brilliant. I mean, it was a hard. Is that better?
It was all right. It was fine as it was. Yeah, it was fine.
I'm getting sore next. I played golf today, so I've been doing that all day.
All right. No,
so
okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Killing me.
That's fine.
Yeah, Billy was again. It was frightening. I mean, that mustache just intimidated you when you but I remember when I first came, we were training up near the airport, and it was windy, and my first training session, I remember pinging these balls in to Big Bamba and Andy Garner, and he just said to me, he says, you're gonna do it for us. I said, I can just see. And I said, look, I'm still contracted to Leeds, but I'd love to see how things happen here. And every club I've been to, maybe I should say this at the end, but the camaraderie and the togetherness of both Sheffield Wednesday, Arcadia Shepherds, Blackpool, Leeds United, and Blackpool. Everybody was together. There was no superstars. There was no big hitters. I mean, Trevor Sinclair couldn't even get in the team, and what a talent he was at 16. He couldn't get in the team because Tony Rodwell were keeping him out and David Ayre were keeping him out. Who you would never, I could never imagine that all that talent that he had, I couldn't see him going to where he's gone and what he's done in his career. And by God, I'm so happy he's done it because he was such a talent at that age. But again, he couldn't get in the team. He just couldn't because we were winning. We were winning and we were playing well, and the fans loved every minute of it. That time I was there, the day I left was heartbreaking because my agent.
It was heartbreaking for us as well.
My agent overpriced me. He wanted. He wanted. I think they'd agreed a fee, but my agent, asked for something like, horrendous, for me to sign, and obviously Blackpool just couldn't afford it, so I left. But the one good thing about it was, and still is now. I mean, the supporters at Blackpool, are still as they were then, talking to me, either on Twitter, on Facebook. On Instagram, I'm still talking to a hell of a lot of people in Blackpool. I speak to Bams, I speak to Mike, I speak to Trev, daily on Twitter, always asking morning, how his family is. I speak to Grovesy, I would love to speak to David Ayres. I don't know where David Ayres is now. Last time I think he was at the arch rivals Burnley, weren't he?
He's been at Burnley. Well, John Cross would know, the former players guy at Blackpool. I'm sure he'd be able to help you with that.
For a bit. Andy Garner, obviously I knew him when he's with Brian Clough. I've met Andy a few times in the last few years. Briggsy, Oh, what a defender! Briggsy, first picking 5 sides. Briggsy.
He was terrifying, wasn't he?
You know, and like I say, you got Jason Keaton who were in goal. You've got Phil Horner, who's left now. I don't believe he's left now into Blackpool.
Yes.
As physio, yeah. And you know, we had really, really, really good characters and a really good dressing room, and that's why it worked. You know, no matter who you can spend millions on players and spend and bring in players, but if they don't mix with
she's not got that togetherness, isn't it? It's togetherness.
You know, if you haven't got that, you're never going to be successful. And
no,
I got into two spots of bother with Billy. One at Wrexham, you know, he was going on one of his rants, and I said something. I whispered to Mike Davies, to Ginge, and he threw this shoe at me. I mean, and it whacked me right on the head, you know, and you know, because he was shouting and screaming. I said, I can't remember what I said to Ginge. I went, "The fuck's he? What's he talking about here? We're hammering Wrexham." But he went off on one and he threw this shoe at me, and that's when I saw the Billy Ayre that nobody's probably ever seen. And then the other one was a game got cancelled and because of the ice and the snow, and I took Chris Beach and I took Mark Bonner and a couple of other players, young players. We went out one night in Blackpool, and I got them absolutely hammered. and they didn't come to training the next day. They didn't come to training the next day. So oh no,
God, don't go out with Dylan Kerr.
Of course, they're going to spill the beans when the gaffer says, "I'm going to fine you. I'm going to send you home. You're not playing for Blackpool again." Well,
bloody hell! So, was he that strict then, Billy Ayre? Was he? He was a pretty hard man. Well, he was hard though, wasn't he? He was a hard man. You know, we knew he was a hard manager.
It was. You were feared of him, and he was respected. And again, you know, somebody asked me this question at a coaching license, and I was only there as to watch as part of my CPD. And this one guy said to me, the question to 87 candidates was, do you want a coach or a manager that will put your arm and talk to you? Do you want a coach or a manager that's got a bit of, you know, he's okay with you, but he's not okay with you? Or do you want one that's really firm and really strong? I can't remember the word. It'll come to me in a minute. And everybody, I think 87 of them put their hand up. And they're like the manager that puts their arm around you. And I'm like I said, I'm there as an observer. I'm not part of the course. I'm just there getting my CPD hours. So I put my hand up and I said, you know, excuse me, but I've won 7 trophies with a manager or a head coach, as they're now called, that are very strong personalities, and you were shit scared of them, basically. And you had to be at your best. And that's why we became winners. So I don't agree with, you know, how you know, these guys in the modern day of football, you know, they want the manager to put their arms around you and talk to you. Where when you went to see Howard Wilkinson, he used to sit on his chair like really, you know, shoulders open, head open, and then used to sit in his chair and you just go down like this. You just go so straight away you were intimidated because you were like, you know, it's like above you.
Yeah, absolutely. A bit like Alex Ferguson, the same way, isn't it? Where Alex was terrifying, wasn't he? So Alex was terrifying, and you know, look at the success he had.
You respected them, and you know, like I say, somebody's just tweeted this last week the goal I scored against Burnley. Now, let me please tell everybody, I saw the keeper come off his line because that's what Bamba and Andy Garner, they were scared of. So every time we got wide, Billy always used to say, "Listen, check the goalkeeper because he'll cheat a bit." And if you slow the video down, you can see that I didn't miss it. I hit it flat straight into that top corner.
Well, you answered that before. The question's there. Look on the screen there. The goal in the 5-2 versus Burnley. Did you mean it? So he did.
Again, we got told, the keeper, they were always fearful of Bamba and Andy Garner for the height.
Yeah.
And when I mean, Ayre should have passed it me in the first place, but he didn't. He wanted to cross it for Bams. That's what Ayre were about. And as it broke out to me, I just hit it because I knew that the keeper had already decided that he was going to go from David Ayres' cross, but it got blocked, deflected to me, and I just I said I just hit it, and everybody said, "Oh," but he actually palmed it into his own goal because he was out of position. So yes, I did mean it, by the way. I did.
Well, so that's one of
the game you have on
probably
VHS?
the main reason that you're held in such high regard with Blackpool fans, because I remember when you came in to replace Alan Wright, who was actually my favourite player. I only got into watching Blackpool that season, really. That was my first full season, and I totally in love with Alan Wright. I was like 14 or whatever I was, and he was the same height as me, so it's and then you came in to replace him, and it was like, well, how's anyone going to replace Alan? But you did, and you were fantastic. And that game, I mean, it was Burnley were massive rivals of Blackpool at that time, because we were both going for promotion in Division 4, so it was a huge game, and for you to score in that game, I mean, I bought that match on occasionally they would sell in the club shop the whole match on VHS video. Yeah. And the quality was so poor. It was like, they all looked like they were in the Ready Brek adverts with the orange glow around the shirts. And there was no commentary. You could just hear the wind going. but I had to have it because it was such an epic match and such a massive, massive win. And it was in the March, wasn't it? And we were both up there vying for automatic promotion. And they ended up winning the league, I think, that year, didn't they, Burnley?
They did, yeah. I say it was... Let's say that you can see the reaction of every goal. I mean, it not just because it was that game; it was every game that we played. If we scored a goal, especially if Bam scored or Ayre would score, everybody together. Ginge keeps telling me so he's got the best right foot in Blackpool. I'll take his word. But,
well, he did score that goal against Preston that he's lived on forever. He's had 3 drinks on that goal.
I always, because he always used to get to the end of his contract.
Is that the one with the outside of his foot that he sent me the video of last week?
Yeah, the one he put in the top bins at Preston.
Yeah, I've seen that one. Ginge did have the audacity to WhatsApp me last week, or did he FaceTime it me? I've got it somewhere.
He's lived on that, Dylan, for years.
I know. Tell me about it. I said to him, Stevie Wonder must have been in goal
that day. You're just going to ask him something. What was it?
No, I was just about to say about Ginge. Yeah, I mean, he was with us for a long time. He wasn't. He was over 10 years, and I always used to say it was just because no one else would have him. Because at the end of every contract, it was like, oh well, I'm not signing just yet, and then he'd always sign in the end.
Yeah, Ginge were just special for the club. You need them. You need them characters, and that's kind of the character I was when I was at Leeds United. I was even though I wasn't playing, I was always part of the squad. I was always 13th man. I was, again, like I say, I'm doing a podcast next week with Tony DeRigo. I can't wait because I want to kill him. But I just became. You can see why people stay at clubs the way that they do, like Ginge did, because. He was Blackpool through and through, and he was funny, and his sense of humour was different class to anybody else's, and that's the kind of people that you need in a football club to take the pressure off winning games, and especially if you're losing games. You need somebody that's got a smile, and someone that can come into a training session and come into a dressing room and pick people up, and. He just had to walk in. He had this little funny wobble when he walked in the dressing room. Straight away, you just laugh, and that's what people need. That's what you need at a club, somebody, that can lift the spirits just by walking into a dressing room, and that's what Ginge did. And to be fair, he was a very, very good player, very good professional.
Yeah, absolutely, he was. Right. So from there, you spent 3 years at Reading.
let me before you go on. One of the best things that came out of me going to Blackpool was meeting Dave and Joanne Bamba. And obviously they've got 3 gorgeous kids. Back in the day it were Danny and Frankie. Joanne used to make me dinner before the game. I used to just go to their house for dinner before, pasta before, and without the friendship of Joanne and Dave, my time at Blackpool would have been not as enjoyable, because being in a bed and breakfast across the road from Bloomfield, down the road from, what was the pub called? No, opposite
Tangerine Night Spot.
Tangerine Night Bar. Yeah, that was close, but I met a lovely couple, a great couple then, and a big football fan called Val Turner and a daughter Sharon. I met them, and they again, they made me feel really, really welcome. So, that again, what was it kept my head out the clouds, kept my feet on the floor, and kept me doing things that I'd have been on my own. I'd have been out in Brannigan's, or I'd been out in town, or I'd been in Tangerine, just through boredom. Because remember, back in the day, there was no Sky, there was no this, there was no this, just TV, normal TV. But I moved to Reading. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, you moved to Reading. You had 3 years at Reading. Were they good years? Did you manage to get a lot of games for Reading?
First year.
Or was there somebody keeping you out?
First 2 years were brilliant. I played 89 games, I think.
Right.
At Reading. I missed 1 game. Obviously, when we came to Blackpool and I scored with my right foot, again, you can't imagine, right? That you've done a good job when your team beat Blackpool at Bloomfield Road, and they don't beat you, they hammer you, right? And as you're coming off the pitch, you get the fans are still there, the home fans are still in the ground, giving us a standing ovation off the pitch.
Wow.
And it just summed up, the appreciation for me as a footballer, what I actually kind of meant to Blackpool Football Club supporters that day.
You made a massive impression, didn't you? Just over a short period of time.
I was the last one off that pitch. I was the last one off that pitch because it was just that, perfect moment, because I never had a chance to go say goodbye to the Blackpool fans.
Sure.
And I think the only time I'd ever been back was when Paul Stewart was sat next to me, and all the fans started shouting my name instead of Paul Stewart. I had this horrible Asics purple and orange tracksuit on. Again with the days.
Absolutely.
We had a similar moment with Charlie Adam, didn't we? Quite recently, he came back
in Reading.
Reading again, and he only sort of came on for a bit of a cameo, but he got a wonderful reception here as well.
He did. He only come on for about 3 minutes. It was the highlight of the game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You then moved from Reading to Kilmarnock. Spent a few years there. You obviously moved to Scotland. How was Scotland compared to South Africa? Because it's a bit colder up there then.
It's nothing's as cold as Blackpool.
We're
on the same coast. We're on the west coast, so we've still got that Atlantic weather coming over. No, what happened is I had a really, really bad injury. I was actually supposed to come to Blackpool. Sam Allardyce called me up and asked me to come back to Blackpool.
Wow.
And a few weeks later, I played against Norwich City, and I came off the bench and I scored a free kick, and we drew the game. And then I'd not been playing because me and the management, Jimmy Quinn and Mick Gooden, didn't really get on, and they didn't play me, and then they put me on the bench. And the following game we played against Tranmere Rovers, and I got taken out. Well, I didn't get taken out. I jumped because I think it was Tony Thomas, the right back who was a really, really hard nut player, and I thought if he catches me here, he's probably going to break me in half. So I jumped, and as I jumped, he flipped me over because he caught my leg, and he flipped me over. And as I landed, and I did the splits. and I ripped, and unbeknown to me, I just felt this massive rip, and I actually ruptured my hamstring. And as I'm in the dressing room at half time, in so much pain, Jimmy Quinn poked his head round the door and said, "Oh, that screwed your move up to Norwich City." And I just looked at him and says, "What?" He says, "Yeah, Norwich wanted to buy you." Yeah, but I was on a free transfer anyway. So had I played, like I say, what if? But I played that game, and they rushed me into hospital, and they found out that I got a ruptured hamstring, and I was actually bleeding too bad in hospital, and I'd have probably lost my leg, And I went to Princess Grace Hospital. They did the surgery. First hamstring, the doctor did, and they said I'd probably never play again. And I remember it took me 6 months when I went to spend time at Lillishall and did loads of elastic band running, imitating running with an elastic band, and doing hamstring exercises for like 6 months. That's all I could do. And at the end of that year, I got asked for a trial at Rotherham. I played a reserve game at Rotherham, and there were a guy who I know from Rotherham who's very, very good friends with a former Rotherham player who was Kilmarnock assistant manager, Bobby Wilkinson, and they were after a left back. And he phoned me up and said, "Would you like to come?" Yeah, straight on a plane from London to Glasgow, and I played my first friendly on a Wednesday, and I made my league debut at Dundee United on the Saturday, and that was after 18 months of really, really, really hard, rehabilitation.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of things that have happened, I'll never come back. Anybody that knocks me down, I'll just bounce straight back up. So it's kind of, if anybody tells me I'm not going to do it or I'm not good enough or I can't do it, I'll prove them wrong. And again, I proved the surgeon wrong. And Rufus Brevitt, who was at QPR at the time, no, Fulham. Or was it QPR? Fulham. He did it as well, and he saw the same surgeon, Graham Holloway, and he had the same surgery. And Graham's always said to me, if he'd had never done it on me, he would never have been able to do it on Rufus. And Rufus, he recovered as well after that.
Wow, it's a good surgeon then, I suppose. We did actually interview Tony Green, and he had a terrible surgeon that kind of ruined his career. When he was in his prime. Back in that day, they just didn't have the technology to sort things out like they do now. But it was lucky, I suppose, that it all worked out well.
So from 2000 to 2003 again with Wikipedia, so we might not be exactly accurate, but you moved around a lot. And played for 11 different clubs in England and Scotland. So what happened there?
I was at Kilmarnock for 4 years. My first 2 years were brilliant. My third year, the first 3 years were good, but then I've had 5 hernia operations. I've had 4 groin operations. Basically, the I had 2 groin releases to take the pressure. My hernias were, back in the day, you never had a hernia. Then all of a sudden, Gilmore's groin came into play. We could quick fix you within 6 weeks and you'd be playing again. And I got to a point where I felt I couldn't play. And for a year, my 4th year at Kilmarnock, I never played a game. I had 3 more. I had 1 more groin release and I had 2 more hernias. So basically, I was told I'd never play again. And the pain was like, you remember if somebody pinches you really tight, if you get, or somebody bites you. Well, that's the pain that I was getting every single minute of the day, 24/7, in my groin area. If I sneezed, if I moved, if I, I couldn't run, I couldn't kick. Literally, it was such a small pain, but it was a nightmare. And then at the end of the year, my contract was up, and they decided to let me go. But what happened then is I went down to, I had a trial at Carlisle, I had a trial at Rotherham again, and then I started playing for Harrogate Town. A rich guy was flying me from Glasgow to Slough. So I went from Glasgow to Heathrow every Saturday morning, putting me in a nice hotel Saturday night, fly back to Glasgow Sunday morning. You know, so I did that for like 6 weeks.
Wow.
And then, even though the pain was, I just like to play. I just enjoy playing. I didn't want to quit. I wanted to prove again. I wanted to prove everybody wrong. And then I got a guy called me about a guy in Leeds, in Batley, called Dr. Shoulders. And I went to see him, and he took an MRI, and he said, "Look, I'm going to inject your pelvis. I'm going to inject your pelvis bone, and this should help it." Worked a treat.
Wow.
Worked
Wow.
a treat. Never had, touch wood, since that injection, I've never had any pain at all.
Wow, that's
unbelievable.
amazing.
That's amazing.
It was honestly, if somebody had told me a year before that, you know, I may have lasted a lot longer. But I don't know what he put in. It might have been a cortisone or whatever, but he put it just below my belly button. He put this needle right into the gap of the pelvic bone, and it was a good whack of whatever he put on it. It wasn't a little drop. I mean, he zapped this thing in there, and he said, "Look, don't do anything for 3 or 4 days, you know." And like I said, touch wood. I've not had one bit of problem with my groin since then. And then I went to Hamilton Academicals, where we won the Scottish 3rd Division.
Yeah.
Again, you know, I got told I would never play again, and again I proved them wrong. And then I got offered the opportunity to go to America.
Yeah, coaching.
To hang my boots up. Yeah, I decided to hang my boots up.
We have it. You coached in Phoenix, Arizona. Is that right? Is that where you started?
Yeah, don't take that off, because the American embassy is going to. You know, I was stupid, but you know, I was working illegally. I got caught, and I paid my price. Luckily now I can go back to America, but yeah, I got an opportunity through a friend I'd met on my A license in 2001, which I did my A license. My partner was I think you'll know this guy, Jose Mourinho, I think he's called.
Oh wow!
Wow.
He was my partner. I don't know if he passed, but I failed, and again, it was my fault. You know, I wasn't ready for it. But when I went to America, I loved Arizona. I was coaching loads of academy kids. What a country to go. Hey, if you want to go to South Africa, no. Go to Arizona. 5 hours, you're in Vegas. 5 hours, you're in California, and the weather's amazing. The golf course is amazing, and the pubs are even better.
What's a try? I actually like America, so I've never been to Arizona.
And yeah, so I spent, I think, 2.5 years there, and then I got caught going to Atlanta. They found out I was working there, and I flew to Atlanta, waited for the plane to refuel, and then I flew back to Scotland. So that was me for just over 10 years. I was banned from America.
Wow!
Blimey, crikey!
They don't mess about over there.
No, so you ended up then between 2005 and 2009 working for the Argyll and Bute Council as a football development officer. How did that come about?
The best job I've ever had. What a place. If you ever want to go anywhere in the British Isles, go to the western coast and go to Argyll and Bute, the likes of Oban, Tobermory, Tyree, Gear, you know, even Campbelltown. They've got some amazing places to visit. It's absolute Ellensborough. You know, you got Loch Lomond, you got Loch Eck, you got Loch Fyne, Ardrishig, sorry. I'll tell you what it's called in a minute if I can remember. It's not come. It'll come to me. Beautiful. And again, I'd left America, and the SFA, I'd applied for SFA jobs probably for the last 4 years previous, and never got a chance, never got in it because, you know, they didn't like my personality, I think. And this job came up, and I don't think anybody fancied it because the amount of traveling from point A to point B, you know, you were talking minimum 1.5 hours, because it's that rural. And for instance, if you want to, I lived in Troon, which I had a 50-minute drive up to Gourock to get the boat for 20 minutes over to Dunoon. And then it used to be a 10-minute drive up to work. And then if I had to go to the likes of Campbelltown, it would take me 4.5 hours to drive to Campbelltown.
Wow.
And if I wanted to go to Tarby or Colonsay, Col, or where else? The Isle of Islay, it would take me about 7 hours, 8 hours, 4 hours driving, then 4 hours on a boat just to teach football. And I loved every bit of it. I had a great boss. The kids were all from rural areas. They love shinty more than they love football. And we just created such a buzz in those 4 years that it was just a great working environment, and everybody loved football then by the time I'd left.
Oh, that's a wonderful story.
You
spreading joy.
Yes, absolutely. And then you went to work for the England, Scottish, and Northern Ireland FAs. Did you after that as well? Is that
yeah,
right?
well, I did. I love football. If you see any of my tweets, and I mean, I wind people up. The banter that I'm having with people. I don't mean any malice or any. I'm not against anybody. I just have a bit of banter. People either take it or they don't, and it's just football's all I've had. I was married once, that didn't work. I've got no children. I'm happy. And currently I'm in South Africa chasing the dream that one day I will coach Blackpool.
Oh, wow. Oh,
well, it would be Man
first,
United. It would be Man United. Because I'm here with Blackpool, it's got to be Blackpool. If Simon Grayson can get the bloody job.
That's another name we don't mention.
We liked him first time around. We're spoiling Fleetwood at the moment, which we're all happy about.
Obviously, some of the places in Argyll it's like being in the Caribbean, but it's just pissing down with rain and but the waters are crystal clear. The beaches are white sands, on some of the islands. And like I said, I would recommend a trip up to Oban any day. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I'd love to go and explore more of Scotland, but Lee thinks it's just going to be really cold.
Maybe in the summer it's not too bad, but just looking at your career, then you've done all sorts of things, haven't you? You had a really interesting life. You've been to Africa, you've been to Vietnam, Tasmania, Kenya,
Tanzania.
Tanzania. Jane, it's Tanzania, not Tanzania.
Tanzania.
Tanzania, right? Okay, so where's Tanzania then? Where is that?
East Africa. It's on the east coast.
So how's all that sort of come about? Because it's just so random. I can't quite get my head around it.
When I came to South Africa, the player I used to live with, and he was a former player called Sammy Troughton, played at Wolves. Didn't make it. Did what I eventually did. Came to South Africa, and he's never left. Now, when I left in '88, he stayed. And then, obviously, when the internet came up, and in 2009, I'd not spoken to him since 1988. No phone call, didn't know his number, didn't know how to get of him because he'd moved. And I found an article about a coach in South Africa from Ireland, so I clicked onto it. And it was Sammy. So I made contact with him just to chat to him. He became a head coach in South Africa's Premier League. And he invited me out because he knew I'd passed my A license. He knew I'd done my coaching qualifications. He invited me out, and I spent 2 weeks with his team, Mpumalanga Black Aces. And he said to me, would like to come be his assistant. And I flew back to Scotland, went to my boss and said, listen, I'm leaving. He says, well, you have to give a month's notice. He says, no, I need to leave now. And he agreed. He was brilliant, my boss. And I moved to South Africa, back to South Africa. It went well for 6 months at Black Aces, but then a CEO took over the club, and he was after Sammy's job. He made it difficult for him, so he fired Sammy. I stayed. They brought a Greek coach in who was absolutely horrendous, and I decided I couldn't work with him. Sammy got another job with a team called Tanda Royal Zulu in Durban, So I moved there with him, and it went really, really well. But they decided the club they were going to go a different direction. So they let Sammy go. They asked me to stay. The coach that they were bringing in, who was probably the most skillful and technical player I have ever seen, called Professor Ungabani. He came in as coach, and we just couldn't work together. We were just so far apart on football. And then I got a phone call from a friend who's now kind of still my friend, but he's now my agent or advisor, a guy called Paul Mitchell from Doncaster. Never met him from Adam, but met him in South Africa. And he asked me if I'd be interested in going to Vietnam as academy director. And I did about a day's finding out about it and doing my research. And I said, yeah, I'd love to go. And I spent 3 years there. The team was called Katako Kanwa, which was in a place called Nha Trang, which was absolutely amazing, a beach resort. And then the second year we moved to up north past Hanoi called Haiphong. They'd bought the club over, so we had to move. And then the second year I'd left. I'd been offered a job in Dubai. But when I got to Dubai, the agreement was that I'd live in the marina. And then they said, well, if you live in the marina, you're going to have to pay for it. I said, well, if you put that onto my salary. And they refused, even though we shook hands on the deal. And then I got a phone call from the president of the team. I was at Haiphong in Vietnam, and they said they'd sacked the coach who'd actually brought me over. And he said, would you take over? And it was my first job as head coach. And it was my first professional trophy as a head coach when I won the equivalent of the FA Cup in Vietnam.
Wow, fantastic.
Wow.
We were
a legend in Vietnam.
Lee, Jane, we were so not fancied. The cup final was in our home stadium because they didn't think we'd get through the first round. So it kind of it killed them a bit because they were all our fans in the stadium, and we were playing the league champions, and we were mid-table, and we weren't fancied at all. And they had the best players, they had the most money, and we beat them 2-0. And and that was my first trophy as a head coach.
Wow,
I left to come back to England. They made me an offer. And when I got back to England, they took the offer back. And I said, well, if you can't be truthful with the offer that you made me, and we agreed to, then, I'm not going to come. And then I got offered the job at Kenya, at Gor Mahia, but I ended up working at Burton Academy with Mike Whitlow and Jimmy Floyd. I worked there for a year, and then I got a phone call from my agent, Paul, and he said, would you like to go to Tanzania to work for one of the biggest clubs in East Africa, a team called Simba. And again, you live in, my house was 250 meters from the Indian Ocean, where there was nobody within 10 kilometers right, 10 kilometers left. There was nobody. Nobody on the beach. So you can imagine, I was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, going for a run on the beach, swimming in the Indian Ocean, bollock naked, because nobody was there, going and having coffee, going to training, doing training, coming home, sitting on the beach, and going to a local hotel, sitting on the beach and just chilling out. It was brilliant. And
it sounds idyllic.
The football is really, really good, but it's really, really tough because there's only 3 teams in 18 teams in Tanzania. There's Azam, Yanga, and Simba. And Simba and Yanga have got the most fans, but Simba have got double what everybody else has got. There's a national stadium. Azam's got an AstroTurf field. The rest of them, you wouldn't go to Stanley Park on. You wouldn't walk your dog on. No. And they're all old stadiums that never get looked after. But you have to play on these pitches, and how they play football on them, you could never do that. The worse than Sunday pub league grounds.
Yeah, I was
I only
reading a book by Justin Worley. Do you know Justin, who was a manager of Matabeleland for a little while in Zimbabwe? And he was saying about in his book about some of the stories about some of the pitches. There was like glass and all sorts on the pitches. He had to go around and clear the pitches before they could play on them. It sounded horrendous.
we had goats and cows that were the grass cutters on our training field. You know, so every morning we'd have to scoop all the crap off the pitch, and we'd have to shoo all the goats off the pitch. You know, some of them would actually come and attack you, so you had to be very, versatile and agile to miss these goats, because you don't want them.
Why?
But the beauty of it, you used to have them. You know, the ones that were nasty, you used to kill them and have them for dinner.
Yeah, you ate them.
So what sort of a coach were you? You said you preferred the disciplinarians that you were afraid of. What sort of a coach are you?
I'm totally the opposite. I've got my guidelines and I've got my distance. I coach the way I play, which is with energy, enthusiasm, and a smile. But when I get angry, you know, don't come near me. If you think Alex Ferguson throws things, you know, I throw everything. You know, and here you've got to be careful. You know, in Africa and in Asia, you know, because they've never seen, you know, an angry Yorkshireman. I don't like lies. I don't like being lied to. I don't like people talking behind my back. And this is from my Billy Ayres incident with Mike, you know, because that's what I was doing. I was talking while he was talking. So I was, you know, and that's why he got angry. Again, you learn things. And if people don't like me, they can tell me they don't like me. If they want to come and shake my hand, they can shake my. But don't go and shake my hand and tell me, oh, well done, I love you, Coach Billy. And then next minute you're telling somebody else that I'm a CUNT, you know,
Yes.
and so my mentor's Howard, you know, from what I learned with him as a player, how he coaches, his principles, his rules, he communicates with his players how to produce what he wants. But nobody used to enjoy. We didn't really enjoy Howard's training. And again, that's something that, you know, I make sure, especially in Africa, you've got to make your African players enjoy training. If you don't, they'll not work for you, they'll not play for you, and they'll end up killing you. And I mean killing you, they'll end up losing games. They'll end up losing games to get you out. You know, so, you know, I've coached in 4 continents, and I've learned from America to Asia, from Europe to Africa. You know, there's a different way, and there's a different mentality. How to coach, why to coach, and when to coach. You know, and that's why I've had the past 3 clubs I've had, which is Black Leopards, Baroka, and Takuma Madzivandila. TTM for us 3.
TTM is
TTM is easy.
Yeah.
Come on, Jane.
Chakuma Cha Madzivandila.
That's not bad. Chakuma Cha Madzivandila.
Madzivandila. Right, okay.
Now,
Which you've actually won the cup with them, have you? You won the Nedbank Cup.
The Nedbank Cup. Again, everybody didn't give me a chance. The club had so many. I've had 3 clubs that have had so many hassles and so many problems, and you know, I've taken them over when they've been 8 points, bottom of the league, 15 games to go, relegation candidates, relegation favourites, and I've gone in there and I've changed the mentality and the psychology of the players to play for themselves and not play for the club, you know, and by that I mean that the players here, their wages get split between 10, 15, 20 family members, you know, so if they get paid at the end of the month, by the first week, by the following week, the money's gone. And you know, I've gone in there and I've said, look, guys, you've just got to look after yourselves, you've got to look after your family, you've got to look after your mum, dad, your grandma, your grandpa, your aunties. They're the big breadwinners, so they have to they don't keep their money themselves, they have to, it's shared between everybody. And I've always said, look, you're only going to do that if you're in the big leagues. If you're in the top league, you're going to continue to help your family. If you go down, you're going to be 1 out of work, or 2, your salary's cut in half. because the grants are 2.5 million rand a month in the Premier League to 500,000 a month in the first division. In the third division, the fourth division, you get nothing. So going into these clubs, you have to get into the head that they're playing for themselves, but the only way that they can win is that they play together. So that's the psychology of getting into their mindset is very important, and it's worked.
Yeah, it seems like it's worked very well for you.
Winning the Nedbank Cup, which again is the equivalent of the FA Cup. We bet the past league champions for 4 years, but one of the best teams in Africa, which is Mamelodi Sundowns. We beat them in the semi-final. Okay, it was a penniless shootout, but we won. And again, everybody didn't give us a chance. Everybody said, "No, this team's not good. They'll get relegated. They'll never get to the final." And we did. We got to the final and we won it. And we won it very, very well. Okay, 1-0, but it could have been, true score could have been 5-1. But we didn't take our chances, and our keeper made one save from their one shot. So it was a great occasion. But
how many go to those, Dylan? How many fans would be at that final in South Africa?
None.
Oh, because of COVID.
Of course, yeah.
Our COVID's now, because we're in winter here. Our COVID's come back. So
how much normally then? Normally, would it that stadium? How many would be there in South Africa?
There would have been 45,000 in that stadium because
wow.
it was the World Cup stadium that England played in Bloemfontein.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Rugby stadium.
Do they still have the vuvuzelas out there then? Do they still use all that vuvuzela stuff? Because they would just drive me.
Well, they do. Cheese Pirates, the vuvuzelas are always, but it's more teams based in Joburg that use that from when the World Cup were in Soccer City. But football's dropped. I mean, like I say, when I played here, you couldn't get a seat in the stadium. Fans actually sit out on the side, outside of the pitch. If they couldn't sit in the stands, they'd actually sit nearly on the touchline. It was that mad. I played in front of 110,000 people in Hellis Park, and it only holds 60,000.
Yeah, well, that's what it was like at Bloomfield Road when my dad was a lad. They used to have packers to pack you in, and they used to put the kids on, in front of the stands.
The game's changed now. The game's changed.
It certainly has.
So, are you able to show us your tattoos, Dylan? You can stand on the table. Don't injure yourself.
Yes, do not fall off and do a splits.
The thing is, I have still got two tattoos. So I've got obviously that one's I think that's the Barocca one. That's the Barocca one. That's the Kilmarnock one. Below that. That's the Gormaya. There's a Gormaya one at the bottom, and then there's a Black Leopards one above that, and then at the back I've got I can't see it. This is going to be difficult.
It's all right, we get the idea.
I'm going to get the Blackpool one done because we got promoted that year.
Yes, of course. So these are to commemorate all the trophies that you've won. Is that what your tattoos are?
Or the last three? Well, Black Leopards and Barocca, because I saved their PSL status, it was like winning the league. So, it's so I will get the Blackpool one done. It's not changed, has it? The Blackpool one since '91.
Is it not?
It's a good question.
Yeah, well, I'll have to check that up, but because I want the one in '91. I don't want the new. If there's a new one, like the Reading badge has changed.
It's got that badge on it. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, is that the old one?
You see that? No, that's the new.
That's the new one. I'll have to do because Reading's got a new one, and I didn't, and that wasn't. I didn't want that one. I think it's still pretty much the same.
It's still progress, on the still the progress and the what do you call it? The coat of arms, and everything. Yeah.
No, I'm going to get it done because again, it's something that I forgot. It's I won promotion even though I was only there for 3 months. I was part of that promotion winning team, and I think it took me a year to get my promotion bonus.
Doesn't
Did you get a
surprise
medal
us.
for being part of the team? Did
No.
you get some? No,
No,
you don't.
no.
Not for contributing.
Unfortunately, not.
So we just noticed that you were covering the Euros on the TV channel. Was that over in South Africa? Did you cover the Euros so you're a pundit.
On the back of the Nedbank Cup, obviously, my stature was quite high in South Africa, and I actually phoned the studio up because England were in the tournament, and I know Dwight York was coming over. JJ Okocha was one of the presenters, and I just asked the question, rather than being that my options were to go to Durban, play golf, and get drunk, or going to studios and watch the Euro Championships, and which I'm so happy I did. And the day I was supposed to leave Durban, because I was there for a week's break, we had to get COVID tested, and I went to get tested, and I'm sat in a place called the George in Umhlanga, and I get a ping on my phone saying I've been tested positive, and it was high, and it had got a flag next to it. So not that I knew any different. And I'm sat with like 10 English guys drinking, and the guys said, what are you doing? What's wrong? I said, I've just been tested positive. So everybody moved back.
Oh, blimey.
But they said to me, which one did you go to? Because if I tested positive, I couldn't go to the studio. I'd have to 10 days isolate. They asked me, which one did I go to? Did I go to the testing centre on the left or testing centre on the right? And I said, well, I went on the testing centre on the right. And they said, no, that's the worst one you could go to the one on the left. So I got in my car, or I borrowed my friend's car, and I drove up there, got tested. And I was waiting. Obviously, my flight had left. And as it left, I got a ping, and I was negative. So, this COVID thing, who knows? And I think I did 10 games. I did the semi-final and the final.
Oh, wow, fantastic.
So what was your opinion on the final then? Because I was going blooming. I was going mental here, wasn't I? I was so angry about the final.
I thought we were rubbish in the final. I thought we go 1-0 up, and then we decide that we're not going to attack. We're not going to frustrate. We didn't try. We should have brought Harry Kane off, because I didn't think Harry Kane was, and I think now this saga with Man City looks a bit with Grealish going. And I think I think he should have just gone for it. The one and only time we got faith in Gareth and the players, and if you're going to lose, you're going to lose, but don't lose the way we did. Me and Dwight York, we had a disagreement at half time, because I thought the first 20 minutes, I thought this is going to be 2-3. If we can get another goal, we're going to kill this game. And then after 20 minutes, we just kind of stopped doing what we'd done in the first 20 minutes. And then in the second half, we just let them control the game.
Completely, absolutely, I agree with you.
They didn't create much.
They didn't.
They didn't cause any problem, but we allowed them to dominate.
To get a grip of the game, didn't they?
And the more possession another team has, yes, as long as it's going side to side and it's not going in the box or anything like that, which it was, you're going to get tired and you're going to make a mistake. And that corner, we got caught out on that corner, and then from then, even we could have sneaked it in the last 10 minutes of extra time. But why do it in the last 10 minutes? And then to bring 2 subs on a minute before the end of the game, just so they can take penalties again.
It's crackers.
What you're thinking? But yeah, I loved it. I was really nervous, because I know it's such a big thing when you're watching, the likes of Neville, Keeney, and all them lot, and Carragher, how they do that. But I found that as long as I spoke in my Yorkshire accent and say it as I saw it, rather than analyse it like a pundit, like the people that I was working alongside, they were too analytical, and to be fair, I got lost in what they were saying. So imagine how these local people,
the viewers, felt,
were saying it.
We do the same thing. We say it as we see it. Really, that's how that's how we do our commentaries, and it works.
First game, I thought, because I was thinking what to say, I was,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I was thinking what I was trying to be clever,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, and then when I watch myself back on TV, I'm thinking, that's not you. Stop trying to be somebody different. Just be yourself. And
Yourself, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what we do.
Say what
isn't
you
it?
see as Jim.
We don't pretend to understand all the technicalities of the game. We don't even know who, we were playing Manchester City the other night. We were commentating on that and no idea who these Manchester City players are. And we just admit that. It's just it's not like we're supposed to know everything. We just talk about what we know.
I've been to their training ground twice, and you just, no matter who you know, I know Howard Wilkinson's son, he's under 18s coach. Brian Marwood, he's the chief executive. Knowing these people, you cannot get nowhere near Pep. Just even, ask him things, But Jose, I can phone Jose, I can email Jose, and he'll come back to me within a couple of days, and if I've got a problem, I've got a technical problem, or if I've got somebody that I want to ask a question, I'll phone Howard, or I'll phone or email Jose.
Well, they're not too bad people to be able to contact them.
I mean, like I said, I've been to Man City's training ground, and twice I've tried, to just watch him work. And as a coach, what you do, as a player, when you're a young kid, you're watching. I used to watch Gordon Hill. I used to watch Billy Bremner. I used to watch Steve Coppell. That they were my kind of role models. So when I'm a coach, I want to watch training sessions. I want to watch games. And if I can see that anything that I want to add into my jigsaw puzzle, into my makeup, then that I think's good, I'll introduce it into my training sessions. And
that's brilliant.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
Without being, overconfident or being blasé, or whatever the word is, big-headed. My training sessions are related as what Pep Guardiola always speaks about, is to the game that he's playing, the team he's playing against.
Yeah, that's exactly what Neil Critchley does at Blackpool. Yeah,
it's not about the opposition; it's about your team.
Right.
And I think one day I'll get the opportunity to do it in England. One day, hopefully. And
sounds like
we're
lucky to have you.
Like I say, you learn different things in cultures here. Players here, it's all about money. Like I said, within a week of them getting the salary, they've got nothing left. So they're begging they're having to take loans out from the club. They're having to ask players to give them a pound, a pound for lunch. A pound for lunch, which you can get a nice lunch for a pound here, but that's what they have to do. And that's, they've got 3 weeks till next payday. So imagine the mentality of these players when they come to work. They've not had breakfast because they can't eat breakfast. They come, it's like 35 degrees at 10 o'clock in the morning when you're training. So, and you've had no breakfast, so you're trying to get the best out of them, and that's every day. People don't understand the issues off the field that you have to deal with as a coach. Blackpool won't have any of these hassles. Everything probably for them. But here, let's see, to win the Nedbank Cup, they wanted a bonus, and to win the Nedbank Cup, you got £7 million, which is kind of £350,000, maybe £400,000, and I had to plead and beg with the chairman to give the players half, which reluctantly he agreed to. He agreed to it, and the reason they agreed to him, I said to him, if you get to the final and you win it, you get 7 million. If you lose it, you get 2.5. Now, if you lose, you're not going to give the players a bonus for losing, so that 2.5 is yours. But if we win it, you're going to get an extra £1 million on top of that, because you're going to get 3.5 million. I said, but in order to win it, I've got to pick 11 players to go out and play and win you that game. So, so it's all sense. But up until this day, they've not been paid that bonus. So again, it's now this is the problem, that they're going into a new season which starts in 2 weeks' time.
With motivation,
with issues like this.
Are you?
And the
Well,
woman
this
said,
was our final question, really, wasn't it?
Yes.
Are you still at? And I put TTM. You see, I was ahead of the game. Are you still at TTM, or have you got a new club? And what are your future plans? That's our last question to you, Dylan.
No, my last answer. No, I'm not at TTM. I left at the end of at the end of June when my contract was up. I signed a short-term contract. I'd agreed that contract to one, keep them up. The cup was a bonus, and I made them an offer, which was very low and respectable compared to other coaches in this league. They made me an insulting offer, which was lower than I'd agreed to on their terms for the last 5 months, and there was an agenda here. The reason was they knew I wouldn't take it, and they've hired a Frenchman and a Belgian coach, probably playing them double what they were offering me. So right now I can't come home to England because we're still on the red list. I'm not going to go into a hotel and waste my money sitting in a Gatwick airport. So at the moment I'm sat here. I've had an offer from Vietnam, Angola, Botswana for the national team, and Zambia for the national team, but it was only a short-term contract. So there's been three offers. One, I can go back to Vietnam, but their season doesn't start till January. Right. So I can go back to my old team in Vietnam. So that's an option. I'm actually going to phone a guy in New Jersey tomorrow because I believe he wants me to go and coach his Division 3 team in New Jersey. I don't know the ins and outs of this Division 3, so I'll have to do a bit of homework tonight before I phone him. And at the moment, I said, like a lot of coaches, waiting for that phone to ring. But I'm not waiting because I'm not really, I've got a court case coming up with my previous club for unfair dismissal. That's on the 23rd of August, and I've also got if the club TTM don't reply to my email about my Nedbank bonus, then I will take them to court as well because it's obviously in my contract. So however they're going to do it, they owe me my cup bonus. So that's what I'm concentrating at the moment. I'm playing golf. It's winter here at the moment, so it's 25 degrees during the day, but at night time it's like 4-5 degrees. Where I stay in Polokwane, we will not see a rain or a cloud. We'll not see a raindrop or a cloud for the next. Well, we haven't seen it for 3 months, and we've still got another 2 months to spring. Wow. So so there's blue skies every day. We get every single Premier League game on TV. We get 4 championship games. We sometimes we get League One, and we get one game on a Saturday, one game on a Sunday from the Scottish Premier League. Plus we get the La Liga. We get every we've got 40 channels that are just dedicated to football.
Wow.
So you can go, if I go to my local, I'll make sure if I've not got a game or there's nothing happening, I'll make sure that they'll put the 4 TVs that they've got will have whoever's playing. We have 4 different games, and it's great. It's great.
It sounds wonderful. It sounds wonderful.
We could sit here I've got the stories about Muti is, it's things I've done, things I've eaten in Vietnam, things I've done for witchcraft. And the thing is, black leopards do it every single game. And last year,
what do they do every single game?
They spent more money bringing a Muti man with his Muti into the day before the game. They spent more money on him in a year than they did on the coach's salary, and they got relegated.
Is he like a witch doctor sort of thing then?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like a witch doctor, a Muti man.
One day, we were staying in this hotel, a really nice hotel, and this guy came in with these 2 buckets, and you don't want to imagine what's in it, but one's blood. There were chickens' feet, there were feathers, there were chickens' heads. There was some other animal. They were like a fox. It weren't a fox, but like a fox. and then you know one of them little bathtubs, not the big tin ones, but the little bathtubs. They used to fill them up, and I was obviously in the games. We had 18 squad, 6 technical team manager, and so there was like 26 of us, and I was the last one to actually go in this bath, and there's been 25 African people going in this bath. And don't get me wrong, they're the cleanest people ever, but they're all in this bath, all naked, and we have to put the water over his head, we have to wash his hair, and it's absolutely... The thing is, you cannot bathe, you cannot shower until 2 hours after you've had that mooty bath. So you come out of it, and you're just like, you don't know what you're covered in. You don't know what you're covered in. It's not Nivea, that's for sure.
That's horrendous.
You know, it's just and if you win the game, great, but they think it's because of the mooty. You know, if you lose the game, you know, it's the players get the blame, and it's not the mooty. You know, so it's
interesting.
I've got some. I think I'm going to do my book in 3 parts because
it sounds like it's going to be a three-part trilogy. Absolutely.
My 3 months in Blackpool is going to be 1 part.
It's a book in itself, I would imagine. Well, Dylan, honestly, we've kept you 1 hour and 46 minutes, so I think we're going to.
I'm sorry, I'm talking too much, but
no, it's fantastic.
No, it's absolutely fantastic.
I think you've out nattered Ben Burgess there.
You have actually, you've done more than Ben Burgess, which is incredible. It's been an absolute pleasure, hasn't it? It's been really.
No, thank
really
you very
good.
much. It's been really nice. Been really nice. You know, so. And I hope your show goes really, really well. I mean, it's great. Like I said, I've been invited to do a podcast on Monday nights with a guy called Mark Roach, and there's an England soccer player, Sherry. Is it Sherry?
A lady player.
Yeah, a lady player,
yeah.
And Lofty from EastEnders.
Oh
wow! Okay.
Me, Lofty, and Sherry and Mark are doing this podcast on Monday, I believe, and I think Pat Nevin's the first guest, but I just got asked because you know I'm not busy at the moment, and said, "Would you want to do an hour?" I said, "Yeah, I'll do it. I'll have a laugh with you."
Sure,
but I think it's good what you're doing. I think it's good what you're doing. I think I know how fanatical you both are about the club, and I think to get to be invited for just being there for 3 months. Is an honour for me because, like the likes of Ginger's been there forever.
Yeah, we haven't asked him.
Fantastic.
He's on the list.
He's on the list. He's on the list.
He'll have you in tears, honestly.
Yeah.
We'll have to.
You'll laugh for an hour.
Well, if you speak to him,
I've got him on Facebook. Actually,
we've got him anyway, so we'll get him on. Yeah, we'll definitely get him on. I hope you guys out there have really enjoyed this. If you've stuck with it for 1 hour 47 minutes, you must really have enjoyed this.
I imagine they will have. It's been really, you've been really engaging, really interesting, really interesting stories, really interesting career, and really engaging guys. So thank you so much for sharing those stories with us. We really appreciate your time.
We'll promote it and put it out as a premiere, and if you can make it, I'll let people know that you can make it, and you can be in the chat and you can answer any questions that they have as well.
Like I say, it's great what you're doing. I think honestly, it's brilliant and engaging, especially the fans with this COVID virus and people bored and stuff. And,
of course.
It's good, and like you say, what I've told you is the truth. It's not. I don't make things up. This is my job. This is my life, and I love it.
It's been fascinating.
I don't think you could make half of that stuff up, to be honest.
You've had a very interesting life, I've got to say.
I forgot to tell you, the last time I returned to Black Leopards, my first day back, they got a white physio, right? Big Afrikaans guy, huge. The Mooty man came, right? I'd never even met the guy, and I had to I had to kneel down, bollock naked. Him knelt down next to me, and we got showered with the most hello, my name's Dylan. Oh, my name's Brandon. Oh, pleased to meet you.
You're just covered in blood.
The bollock naked, getting thrown chicken feathers and bird feathers and blood and pig's blood. Oh, it was all over us. Oh, it was horrible.
Oh my God, it's a terrifying place. Sure, you're going. I don't know,
You're
keep
still
going
there.
back.
Absolutely.
You've not left. You must like it.
Booty's doing wonders for my skin as well. It's just, it's not done much to my hair. Listen, guys, thank you very much. I know I'm talking
it's
too
been
much.
a pleasure. It's been an absolute
Listen, keep
pleasure.
in touch.
And,
Lee,
Yeah,
keep in
you
touch.
too.
We will.
Keep in touch, please.
Thank you very much, and so thanks a lot for watching. Hope you really enjoyed it, and don't forget, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like and also subscribe to the channel. It really helps us. Big thank you to Dylan for coming on today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks a lot for all you watching. It's been great.